I start getting a Twitter following. I get introduced to all these guys at Daily Wire.
Yeah.
That's when I started to run into problems, though, because, and this is sort of, a lot of people don't know this about me. People look at me and they say, oh, he's another David Duke. He's another Richard Spencer. I was going to be the next Shapiro, Will Witt, whatever, basically being groomed like all these other young college Republicans. I was on that track to be a normie conservative influencer. But it happened to coincide with the Trump election, where Trump was raising some very interesting points. Like when he goes out and says America first, that creates a big problem for the system that we have.
Yeah.
Because the system is basically predicated on foreign influence and corruption. And so when one guy goes up and says America first, suddenly it's a big problem for the people that want Iraq war, Afghanistan war, Syria war, war with Russia, whatever, free trade for that matter, TPP. And so I start asking these questions of all these guys at Daily Wire saying, hey, man, what's the deal with the foreign aid? What's the deal with the war? What's the deal with the Security Council vote? At that time, Obama, and I didn't like Obama, but I defended him in December 16. He goes out there and he allowed the United States to abstain on the Security Council vote where they were condemning Israel. Everyone freaked. They said, he's an anti-Semite. He's the worst guy ever. I said, hang on a second. We owe them, we owe them that we have to give them this unconditional diplomatic support no matter what. I wrote this big article about it. I'm pushing tweets, and they basically told me, and here I am still under the impression that it's a free marketplace of ideas. We're the right wings of Patriot movement. And they come and tell me, they say, hey, listen, you got to stop asking these questions. Stop talking about this. We'll answer it privately, but you're basically making too much of a fuss about this stuff. You got to drop it. And I said, I'm not going to drop it. Like, this is legit. I mean, you got to give me answers, or you gotta let me ask. And I got a text from Cassie Dillon. I want to say, I don't know, several months into 2017, I'm still at BU. And she says, listen, we are not in the same movement. You keep asking these questions. You are alt-right. You are an anti-Semite. I'm never going to talk to you ever again. She was like,
just for asking the question about foreign aid.
Yeah.
Just for asking about foreign aid. Wow.
Mild stuff. Not even like what I'm on now.
Yeah. Well,
which is more.
We'll talk about that on Rumble.
Right.
Some of your more controversial views. But that's wild, though, that like just off of that alone, very simple stuff like, hey, some foreign aid. What's going on with this? Oh, no, what are you doing? Right. So, wow. So real quick, we talked about Trump. 2016, he gets elected president. Where were you, and what went through your mind? Because I'll tell you this, I was fucking shocked when that happened. I was down in Laredo, Texas on the Mexican border. I was shocked when that went down. Where were you at, and what was it like?
It was the best day ever. I mean, literally like one of the best days of my life, without even joking, no exaggeration. I mean, I was there on campus, and I was getting attacked for months.
Of course. People
just literally yelling at me in the street, confronting me in the dining hall. And so I remember
it's real, dude. I remember when I wore the hat, like it is real. Like they will, like back then, they would attack you in Boston. The physical violence for you being a Trump supporter, it was crazy, dude.
Yeah, no, I think it was actually worse then than it is now.
It's way worse back then. It was way worse because I remember, like they looked at it like this is a joke. This guy's the apprentice. He's not going to win. He's a white supremacist. They're saying all kinds of crazy stuff about Trump back then. He hates black people. He hates Arabs. He hates Muslims. He hates everybody. There's no way he's gonna make it. So it was like a joke. So if you wore the hat, they kind of like looked at it like we can attack him because it's a joke, right? Then they kind of like had this veil of like he's not gonna win. But when he actually won, it became real. Right. They all flipped out and they went crazy. And speaking of which, real quick, that debate, you smoked that guy, didn't you?
Which debate?
The one, but you.
The first one.
Talking about it.
Totally. It was brutal.
Do you remember, what was the biggest dunk on him that you remember that you?
I don't remember. I mean, this is so long ago. It was almost 5 years. It's 7.
Yeah.
Nah.
There had to be like
7 years. Damn.
One standout moment though. Like where did you, what topic was that you just dunked on him on?
I think there was one part, because at that time, they were hitting Trump with all the sex assault allegations. You remember that?
Yeah.
And we never heard from those people ever again, minus this civil suit that just happened recently. But back then, he raped 12 women, this and that. And so I remember they asked me about that in the audience question. And I basically said, they're liars. Like, I don't believe any women. This is even before Me Too. and the room lit up.
Of course.
People were leaving like crying because that was like the era, like the trigger at SJW.
Yeah.
People freaked out.
To give everyone just perspective, like back then, if you came up with an accusation, they believed you. There was no like false. The false accusations weren't a thing for celebs. Like if someone came at a celeb back then, 100% he did it, right? And now we know, right? This E. Carroll woman, right? She went on fucking CNN and said, "You can rape someone emotionally."
Yeah.
This is the clown world that we're in. So like it was all bullshit. And I don't know where any of these women are now that claim this shit. And the only reason that Trump lost that civil suit, by the way, for all you guys out there, is
he didn't
posted on my Instagram. Yeah, he didn't care
at all.
Bro, there's a clip. You know what, Chris? Pull up the clip. Type in Trump deposition tells a lawyer you're not attractive. I'll play that clip real quick for y'all. That's why he basically lost, because he didn't give a fuck. He went to that deposition and didn't care. But sorry, going back. Election night, he wins 2016.
Yeah, so I was there were very few Trump supporters on the campus. I think it was literally like 4. And like I knew all of them because we all met at the big Fox News debate viewing party. And anyway, so we were all in my buddy's dorm room, and I thought he had a good chance of winning. I actually had money on it. I think I bet $1,000 that Trump would win. I put money down in the second debate when he went out there and said, because you'd be in jail. I ran to my laptop. I put like $1,000 on Trump on predicted because I'm like, he just won, but I wasn't sure because you remember how it was. It's like you said, it wasn't real until it happened.
Yeah.
So we were there. We were chilling. We didn't even have a TV.
I was shocked.
Yeah,
I thought Hillary had it. Like you had all the feminists going crazy. I was like, dude, she's gonna win. This is like no way. But
you and everybody else, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 97% Huffington Post, right?
Yeah.
And so I was there in the apartment, and we're watching the New York Times, and you remember those? They had these dials, and they said she's got a 99% chance winning. And as the night went on, it just went further and further. And we just, as the night went on, we were going crazy. We're like, he did it. Like he memed his way into the White House. And so it's nuts.
He did though,
right?
His Instagram is all jokes, like making fun of Biden and making fun of everybody. Ron DeSantis, like, it's hilarious.
Well, the Twitter was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, back in 2016, people forget. I always make it a point to say this when I do interviews. It's like, Trump today is way more mild compared to 2016. He was going out there and said, like, we're going to ban all the Muslims in the United States. What? Like,
he said, I'll never forget this. He said, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. And I was like, what the fuck? This guy's crazy. Because I was on the Mexican border at the time. And everyone was like, no way it's going to happen. And I was like, fucking like, this nigga's crazy. and when he won, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
well, and you remember he goes up there and he's like, well, my brother built a security apparatus that kept us safe, Jeb Bush. And Trump goes, and you could see like he got charged up. That bothered him because the audience was cheering for Jeb. He goes, the World Trade Center came down under your brother. And they were like, what? Like, he blamed him for 9/11. This was nuts.
Yo.
And anyway, so we were like, this is just the best thing ever. And we went to all the viewing parties because they were hosting these viewing parties all over the campus. And we went waving the Trump flag with the hats. Fuck you. Trump's your president. 8 years, bitch.
I can imagine all the like white girl family. Just going crazy, bro. Just losing their shit, man. Because, I'm telling y'all, man, Boston is way different, right? Like I could only imagine what it's like now with like the 99 genders and fucking them being super politically correct over there. Like it's bad now. It's way worse.
So after he won the election, were people still trying to fight you at school after that?
Yeah, it got worse. I mean, so me and my buddy the day after, we went to the Harvard yard or whatever, the Harvard common area to troll. We brought the flag, we brought the hats.
Dude, we won.
Literally.
Oh, y'all went to Harvard Square?
Yeah.
Oh, the red line.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. See, big mistake.
Okay, let me paint a picture for you. This area is like huge. Like this is where tourists come, college students. It's huge, and it's a big T stop. Like the T is the train for Boston, right? It goes all through the city. So like that's a huge area. So like, y'all are crazy for that.
I can only imagine Nick and his boy like, fuck you, dude, he won, motherfuckers.
Did y'all have like the Patriot hats on and shit?
Oh yeah, we had the MAGA hat, the flags, the whole thing.
Yeah, you want your hat shirts. You want your hat beat, bro.
Niggas turned that shit to the Boston Tea Party. It's back. It's back. All right, sorry.
We almost got our asses kicked, because we took the red line to get over there.
Yeah.
And somebody ran by and snatched my buddy's hat. People were heckling us. We jump on the tee, and a bunch of homeless guys come up, and they're like, hey, we're going to beat the fuck out of you at the next stop. And we're like, we got to get out of here. We jump off the train, not even at our stop, out of the frying pan into the fire. There's like a whole gang of black guys there. They're like, yo.
Did y'all get off at like Roxbury?
I don't remember.
Okay.
So many years ago, but it wasn't our stop. We're like, we just got to get out of here. This guy's like got a fucking glass bottle. So we jump off the thing. And this group of black kids, they start, yo, fuck that hat, bro. Yo, fuck me. And they start losing their minds.
Everyone's pissed.
Oh, yeah, rage. So we just booked it. We just got out of Dodge.
Yeah,
My niggas
that's crazy. Like
that's my boys,
they
man.
went out and they just like said, you know what? Fuck it, we won it. We gonna rub it in the salt. We put the salt in the wounds, baby.
My boy said red flag.
Yeah.
Them niggas, man.
Yo, man.
It's the wrong neighborhood.
Oh shit. Okay. So speaking of which, so Trump wins, right? Y'all go on the trolling thing. Real quick, I got the video here. You guys want to know why Trump won that? Because just to bring it back, long story short, this woman came out, accused Trump of raping her back in like '96 or some bullshit like that. This E. Carroll lady, she's an author, writes a book about her life, and then most importantly, writes about her getting raped by Trump. So this, I don't know if y'all know this. So this is what happened with the story. She releases an excerpt from the book to a newspaper, and it goes crazy, right? Like that's the first time the allegations are made out publicly, etc. It goes crazy. So she says, "Okay, I'm going to put this in my book, and I'm going to go on a tour." Then she launches a civil lawsuit. So it's like, bro, you're going to launch a lawsuit. You're going to put the excerpt out from your book of one of the most traumatic times in your life to sell a book, and you're telling me that it's not on some bullshit? Like, come on, man. So right here, guys, so this is a deposition, right? Because it's a civil case, so Trump cannot assert the Fifth Amendment privilege of staying silent. He has to answer the questions. So he's there. They're asking him questions. This part is hilarious. Here, just hit play.
When you said in that video that Ms. Leeds would not be your first choice, you were referring to her physical looks, correct?
Just the overall. I look at her, I see her, I hear what she says. Whatever. You wouldn't be a choice of mine either, to be honest with you. I hope you're not insulted. I would not, under any circumstances, have any interest in you. I'm honest when I say it. I would not have any interest in.
The video.
Bro. And just so y'all know, that's a lawyer asking me these questions. He's basically saying, I would have smashed her and I would have smashed you either. Like, what the fuck? And I think just the fact that he didn't care, his lawyer he didn't give a fuck about the deposition. That's why he lost. Because just so you guys know, civil cases, a preponderance of the evidence. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily guilty or whatever. They just have to prove that you're culpable to a degree. 51% versus 49%. So he didn't give a shit. It was October 19th of 2022. He probably had some bitches he was fucking. He didn't give a shit about that deposition. He knew it was bullshit.
It was a joke, man.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? 2024 election. Who are you going to vote for? Who do you think the best candidate is? Who do you think sucks? Just give us your take.
Well, I haven't endorsed anybody yet. I mean, I was a part of the Yay 24 team for a minute.
We're going to talk about that too.
Yeah. And at the same time, I also wasn't in love with Trump's announcement speech. I was actually very critical of the Trump announcement. Zerka gave me a real hard time about that. He announced back in November.
Canadian. Who cares what he thinks?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think he even vote.
Focus on Trudeau.
Yeah. Well, so I didn't like the announcement. I told him as much. I mean, we had dinner at Mar-a-Lago. I said, like, hey, man, I mean, bring the heat? Like, we want the old Trump back. And anyway, I think I'll most likely support him. I think he's by far and away the best candidate. I don't like anybody else. I mean, if it's not him, I'm not going to vote. I'm not obviously going to vote for Joe Biden. I'm not going to vote for Ron DeSantis. The reason I won't vote for DeSantis, I mean, maybe we'll get more into it on Rumble. Well, I mean, this guy, every criticism that I have about Trump, it's like 10 times with DeSantis. Because, I knew guys in the Trump administration. I knew a lot of guys who worked in the Trump administration. And the big gripe that everybody had was that Trump gets in, and who staffs the White House? It's the RNC. The RNC that fought him throughout the nomination process, throughout the primary, even the general. I mean, we could get into it, but they were the ones that hired everybody, the 4,000 or 5,000 people that fill up the Trump admin. They picked them. So all the worst people in the world. And there was this running gag. All the true believers that were there from the beginning, stood by Trump through the Muslim ban stuff, everything else. The joke was, if you worked on the Trump campaign, it would actually count against you getting a job in the White House, because they were hiring like the worst people ever. And anyway, so that was one of the big problems, is hiring. Trump's going to hire all the wrong people. The other thing is that they said that Trump was insufficiently America first. He wound up doing all these deals for that country over there, recognize their sovereignty over Golan Heights, move the embassy, called the IRGC terrorists. He's doing backdoor regime change in Iran, all these kinds of things. And anyway, both of those things that you could say about Trump are doubly true of DeSantis. I mean, if anything, the lobby that we criticize Trump for being so in bed with, they back DeSantis way more. And the same thing is true of the hiring. If Trump made those mistakes back then, I think he's less likely to make them this time around. DeSantis, I know the people that are going to be staffing the DeSantis White House. I mean, I literally personally know them. They're worse than the Trump people. So, I mean, that in addition to the fact that what country did he visit before his announcement? 1 month before his announcement, he flies out there, talks to all the top donors, basically got their blessing. And you could go into it. I mean, he was a congressman. He was a governor. The only foreign trips he took as a congressman and as a governor,
but
all the same country.
Can I argue that maybe he's just playing a part to, become president, maybe?
I mean, that's certainly possible. I think Trump did the same thing.
But you know what? Why I like him because whatever he says, he does. But for the most part, if someone's going to be in office, well, if they say they're going to do something, they should do it.
He did a good job in Florida.
Yeah, that's what I can do.
Good job
Florida was, even during those bear bug times, it was open.
Yeah,
thanks to him.
compared to other states.
I mean, I like him, man. I like him, but
I understand what you're saying because you're right. I mean, he is a good governor. He says a lot of the right things. The thing is about Trump is that Trump is truly an outsider. Like, he really is fundamentally different than the rest of them. DeSantis,
agreed.
I apply more scrutiny because he's a true politician. And to your point, I look at the people that are backing him. And the people that are backing him who flipped from Trump to him, like, for example, Ken Griffin from Citadel. Ken Griffin's one of the big GOP donors, big Wall Street guy. He kind of leads that Wall Street donor block. He flipped his support from Trump to DeSantis in his reasoning. He said that, well, DeSantis isn't going to rock the boat. DeSantis is going to make sure that we get our so-called, prosperity, cut the taxes. It's not going to rock the boat, not going to do the culture war stuff. Yeah. And that signals to me that DeSantis is just another one of these establishment guys who's going to, like every Republican, going to cut the taxes, cut the spending in narrow, limited, not the military ever, by the way, and not DHS and never that, but it'll cut non-defense discretionary spending. And the rest of everything else will go on basically unaffected. So fundamentally, I just don't believe him. I think he's going to be totally bought and paid for by Wall Street, by these foreign countries. And, he has a luxury of being conservative in a state like Florida. I don't think he's going to have that luxury in the general election or in the White House.
Okay. Fair enough. What are your thoughts on the new Trump charges, the new federal charges that just came against him?
Well, it's bad. And, the thing is, I talked about this a lot on my show, and I look at these guys.
You talked about it a lot.
Yeah. We talked about it on that stream with Sneeko and Zerka. The thing is, I mean, if you look at the letter of the law, if you look at the statute, I think he's guilty. And I've said that. The issue with it is not, well, he's innocent or not guilty. The issue is that it's abuse of their discretionary power. Yeah. The question is, should a prosecutor go after a former president for a clerical issue, for classified documents? It's kind of BS. Yeah. That being said, he violated the statute. Like, you read the statute, you read the complaint against him, it's all right there. Yeah. So I think he's in serious trouble. And I think, and we talked about it just before the show, I think his best bet is drag it out as long as possible, pardon himself when he becomes the president. Yeah. And that's the only the other big thing I like about DeSantis is that if he gets elected and Trump loses, I know he's going to pardon Trump. Yeah. So, and yeah, I mean, just to summarize it for some of you guys that might not be aware of the federal case, the New York case, I'm not worried about. That's bullshit. It's basically, they're handing them with falsifying business records. It's a BS charge. But the federal one, the reason why I'm worried is because I've done, the 18 U.S.C. 793E charge before. It's an espionage charge. There's two things that I'm worried about. Number one, documents don't necessarily have to be classified to get hit with that charge. If it's national defense information, they can hit him with it, which he had that, right? Which is basically information that comes from the military. Number two, the indictment, if you guys read it, basically there's a lot of cooperators and informants in it, right? When one of them, they have a sound excerpt, he tells the lady in it, oh, this is secret stuff. Probably shouldn't be showing you this. I could have classified it when I was president, but I didn't. That immediately defeats the defense that he was going to use, which is, I was president, I could have declassified this stuff. And let's say he did declassify the stuff. It doesn't matter. National defense information doesn't have to be classified. You can get hit with the espionage charge for just having it. So my thing is, they obviously indicted him knowing that they're going to win, and they have 37 counts on him for it. And then there's another 13 that they didn't even charge him with because it's so classified that they didn't even want to have to, declassify so that it can be used in evidence. So they're going at him like this because they know that they can get him. Should they have charged him? No. But of course, the FBI, right, had a fucking hard on for him or whatever. So it is what it is. And my other concern too is that if you guys read the indictment, the lawyer, they said that they have lawyer notes memorialized.
Why is this a problem? Well, a lawyer and his relationship with his client is considered privilege. You can't use that information. So if I go to let's say Nick is my lawyer and I rob the bank and I say, I robbed that bank, man, we got it. Yeah. That's privilege. You can't go to the feds. But if I get involved in the crime, right, as his lawyer, now that privilege is gone. So what ended up happening, guys, is that the lawyer, right, moved some documents out of the boxes for Trump and went to the FBI with those documents saying, here we go. The FBI made him sign a letter. Are these all the documents? Yes, it is. Unbeknown to him, Trump's aide, Natua, right, moved some of those documents. So the FBI gets the documents from the lawyers. They're like, wait, there's 100 missing. What the fuck? That's why they did the search warrant in August of last year, recover those 100 documents, and then they went back to lawyers. We got you guys by the balls. You signed this document saying we have everything. We don't. Y'all lied to us. Then, okay, we'll cooperate. Bam. That's how they have the memorialized notes. So that tells me not only the lawyers are going to testify against them, but the people at Mar-a-Lago that saw the documents in the first place to help them write their search warrant, all that shit. So I agree with you. The only way that he's going to beat this is he's got to drag it out to the election, either win and pardon himself or one of the other presidents pardons him. You think RFK would pardon him?
Yeah, I think he would, but I just don't think RFK has any chance. I think Biden's got it locked up on the Dem side.
On the low, I like RFK a lot. I've been watching his interviews. He's against Big Pharma, which I like. He's pretty based. He knows that there was a conspiracy to kill his uncle, which we'll talk about on Rumble. And it wasn't just the mafia. And yeah, he's not a typical Democrat, but yeah, I agree with you. There's no way he's fucking winning, bro.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing. I don't think he's as good as everybody says. I like what you like, which is that he talks about, I don't know how much we could say on YouTube, but he does talk about Big Pharma and he talks about these COVID interventions.
Yeah.
I can't see a whole lot more, though, that I like. I mean, I think at one point he was talking about like fining people that deny climate change and these kinds of things. Very socially liberal. At the end of the day, he is a Democrat. I mean, I get the appeal. He's intelligent. He's well-spoken. He's anti-establishment.
His voice is going to piss a lot of people off, too.
That, too.
You have to get, if you guys ever listen to him talk, he has like a condition that like makes his voice sound very shaky or whatever. And as a president of the United States, image matters a lot. And they're going to be like, oh, well, you sound weird or whatever. But he's very smart, but like it takes a while to, it's like whiskey. It grows on you. You got to drink more of it, I guess, to get used to it. But yeah, and then the other thing too is that he wants to go back to like the United States being like the moral authority. I don't think we should be intervening in other countries, right? Because then fucking bullshit. But yeah, sorry, you had anything else with that?
Yeah, no, just I'm not as gung ho. Like I said, I like the things you like, but I think people are a little too enthusiastic for him. We need to demand, in other words, like I think he represents this strain of compromise between the far right and far left that isn't super useful. He reminds me of like a Glenn Greenwald or like a Tulsi Gabbard type. And a lot of these people, what they have in common is they'll criticize a big pharma.
No, you're right. That's probably one of the most accurate summarizations I've seen of like where he stands.
Yeah, and I think that it's overstated how valuable that is, because the premise of this show and shows like it is that we really need a real return to tradition. Like when you talk about masculinity and women being submissive and marriage and reverting to religions, that seems to be everybody's doing that. That is what civilization needs. It needs strength, order, tradition, masculinity. And what I see these guys bringing forward is basically like liberalism, but less corrupt. They're like, we want to go back to like 90s liberalism. And it's like 90s liberalism brought us today's liberalism, you know, and like, it's still liberal. So to me, it's just not good enough. And it's a step in the right direction, but I don't think that we should settle for that. It's a form of appeasement. We need a real right-wing reactionary movement.
Okay. Feminism. Give us your takes on it. Obviously, we're fairly critical on that over here on this side, but I'd like to get your take on feminism in general.
I'm totally anti-feminist. I mean, some people even say I'm like anti-woman.
I don't blame you. What do you think? What do you think feminism got? What are some of the biggest fuck ups with feminism in your opinion?
Oh, all of it. I mean, because here's the thing: men and women are not the same, and so this feminist idea that there's any degree of equality, I don't think equality exists. I think that you should treat people with dignity and respect. That's like a precise thing that I would agree with. You should be respectful. You should treat people with dignity. You should be kind, courteous, considerate. But equality does not exist in nature. Equality exists in a conceptual way. You know, that's why we have to enforce it everywhere all the time through these administrative fiat decisions. You know, like when we talk about any disparity, any inequality, we always have to go in with a bureaucrat to rectify that, because it doesn't actually naturally occur. And so I think equality between religions, ages, genders, sex, any individual doesn't exist. Men and women are fundamentally different. Fundamentally. Not like women are, they just have different genitals and longer hair. No, they're fundamentally different. Their brains are different. Their bones are different. Their bodies are different. We should treat them different. Society should treat them different. So the idea that they would have the equality with men is ridiculous.
Yeah.
If they're not equal, essentially, why would they be equal under the law or
They
something?
don't even want equality.
They don't.
Because if you look at modern women now, what do they complain about? Guys don't hold doors open. They don't pay for dates. They're not strong. They're not leaders. Well, that assumes inequality, which is what you guys have been fighting against all this time, right? So it's I always laugh because feminists want equality when it suits them, but they don't want it when it does. Basically, they want equality of outcome. They don't want equality of effort, is what a lot of them want.
Absolutely. Well, and here's the thing. I mean, we gave them the vote and we gave them the right to work and all these things. Now, do you see a lot of women that are super duper engaged with politics? And even these like career women, it's like fake careers, in my opinion, most of the time.
No, that's a fact. That's not even, bro, the top least paying jobs that aren't needed for infrastructure are female dominated. That's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. Women don't want it because it's not their role. I mean, women are literally biologically designed to have children. People ridicule that and mock that. They say, oh, you want the women barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. You think they're baby machines. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's what they're made to do. That's what their hormones are about. That's what their brains are about. I mean, people even say their ethics are different because their ethics are based on caregiving. I mean, they're biologically designed to nurture and care for a baby growing in their body and then take care of them after they're outside. So their disposition, their temperament, their everything is all based around that. And as a consequence, that's why most women happen to then not be fulfilled. That you're going to see, it's going to be devastating in this century. All these women that were lied to about feminism that are going to turn 30, 35, 40, no eggs, no husband, no family, ugly.
No eggs.
Going to be millions of them, and they're going to be miserable, and they're going to take it out on us. I mean, they're going to be, God help us, and it's starting to happen. Like they're getting pushed off this cliff here. I look around, and you know what it is? It's these things that people would sort of, they'd say, oh my gosh, that's so extreme. Women shouldn't be getting educated, man. They shouldn't be going to college. There's a 1-to-1 correlation with women getting educated in college and deferring child rearing. In fact, it's a higher correlation between deferring childbearing for women with education than with IQ. In other words, it's not women being intelligent. It's women going to school for all these years, which is why they put it off.
Yeah.
And it's them putting it off. I mean, and we could go really into it, but fundamentally, is the last thing I'll say, fundamentally, the problem is we have gotten away from what is morally right and what is natural. The moral law and the natural law. And what I mean by that is the moral law says that sex is only moral within marriage. And the natural law says that, well, we start to feel like we want to reproduce in our adolescent years. Women have a biological clock. Society should be ordered around these two fundamental facts. Get kids married, get them married young, get them having kids. When you start to introduce this, they got to wait until they're 25. They got to wait until they're 30, and they got to have dating experience, and they got to go to college, and we got to go through the rigmarole. This is what's producing the society with all these things that just don't work or make sense. Hookup culture, pornography, incels, players, this notion about chads getting all the sex and everyone else hung out to dry. In a Catholic society, young women are getting married off. They're having kids. This is healthy for them. That keeps them young, actually. The hormones when they have kids keeps them young. The men are having kids. The fertility rate stays high. The society stays
Kids
stable.
Don't come out with autism.
Exactly. And the high mutational load that's associated with deferring childhood. Like, that is just how the society should be. We got to radically rethink gender, sex, all these things in the society.